This article describes the history of Sweden from the late 1960s until 1991. Rise of the far left. During the mid-60s, there was a strong wave of radical leftism in Sweden, sometimes precipitating heavily publicized events like the Bastard riots and the occupation of the student union building at Stockholm University, though never causing actual fatalities, in either street fighting or domestic political terror acts. It did in Western Germany and Italy during these years. Solidarity and awareness became watchwords, first in literary and student circles, then in the socialist, syndicalist underground, and finally, in the media and the government. By the early 70s, people and government, led by Prime Minister Olof Palme, rose in protest against oppression and war in countries as distant as South Africa and Vietnam. The Swedish support for the ANC in and outside of South Africa and FNL and the Hanoi government in the Vietnam War were steady not only in words, popular support and help to enter the diplomatic arena, but also in economic state subsidies. After Vietnam was reunited in 1975, for instance, Sweden supported the construction of a modern pulp plant at Bai Bang. In 1973, journalists Jan Giller and Peter Bratt exposed Informationsbyrån, a secret agency operating with some assistance of military personnel, but not a part of the military intelligence and not formally run by the military. One of its aims was to gather intelligence on communists and other people regarded as dangerous to national security, while the existence of such a thing, and in particular of its implied links to the Social Democratic Party structure, was fiercely denied. The question continued to surface in a number of political scandals over the years, until it became the subject of serious historical discussion. A few state-issued retrospective white papers and political recant. Although some details are a bit hazy, this internal spying outside of the ordinary state intelligence services is now considered an established fact. It in the form unraveled by Giller and Bratt did not operate, it seems, beyond the mid-70s. The constitutional practice was changed several times during this decade. In 1971 the Riksdag became unicameral. By the new constitution of 1974 the monarch was divorced from all power of political intervention on their own, the end point of an evolution that had been going on ever since the early years of the century. There have been no real attempts to abolish formal monarchy, though. Environmentalism and nuclear power. The 1970s and 80s saw a rise in environmentalism. The ambiguous result of a referendum in 1980 advised government to phase out Swedish nuclear power by the year of 2010. The Chernobyl disaster in 1986 caused considerable radioactive fallout over Sweden, with only the Barsebäck nuclear power plant permanently closed, and 10 out of 12 reactors still running. This schedule was no longer regarded as realistic, and in the 2006 elections the Liberal and the Moderate Party supported not only reversing that decision but building a few fresh nuclear plants. The Green Party was founded in 1981, entered the Riksdag in 1988 and supported Göran Persson's Social Democratic government from 1998 to 2006. Right-wing intermission. The 1976 parliamentary elections brought a liberal, right-wing coalition to power after almost half a century of Social Democrat leadership, and Mr. Palme gave way to Thorbjörn Fälldin. Over the next 6 years, 4 governments ruled and fell, composed by all or some of the parties that had won in 1976, and the questions of energy and of battling the economic recession came to the fore like never before. The fourth Liberal government in these years, again with Fälldin at the helm, seemed somewhat baffled by these problems and had neither the support of a firm majority in the parliament, nor a clear mandate from the non-socialist part of the Swedish electorate. Predictably it came under fire both from the Social Democrats press and trade unions, and from the moderate party, now heading in an increasingly Friedman-inspired and market-liberal direction, and it was defeated in the elections of 1982, with Mr. Palm returning to the PM seat. During the 1980s there were several incidents of foreign, probably Soviet, submarines violating the Swedish territorial borders. In late 1981 the Soviet submarine U-137 ran ashore inside a restricted zone off the Karlskrona naval base, and became headline news. Though the particular fact was kept secret at the time, nuclear activity, probably from torpedo warheads, was detected on board and reported to PM Fulden while the vessel was still stuck in the Firth. The incident marked a turning point both in Soviet-Swedish relations and in the discussion in Sweden about defense, the Soviet Union, and ultimately the place of Sweden in the arena of the Cold War. Assassination of Olof Palme. On February 28, 1986, Prime Minister Palme was murdered as he was walking the streets of Stockholm with his wife. The crime came as a shock. Indeed, it is sometimes referred to as a national trauma, or an event by which Sweden lost her innocence. The main suspect, Christer Pettersson, was convicted of the murder, but the conviction was reversed on appeal because the gun was never found. Pettersson died in 2004. Palme was succeeded by his deputy Ingvar Carlsson.